Minho pushed his cleaning cart down the long corridor of the Celestial Harmony space station. His back hurt from 8 hours of scrubbing floors, but he had 2 more hours to go. The diplomatic wing was always the hardest. All those important people walking around, not even seeing him. He was just the janitor. Just the man who made sure their fancy meeting rooms stayed clean. He thought about Yoonji waiting for him in their small quarters. His daughter was only 8 years old, and she spent too much time alone. But what choice did he have? After his wife died 3 years ago, it was just the two of them. Someone had to pay for food and rent. Someone had to keep them safe on this giant station, floating in space. The shift supervisor Ji-won walked past him without a word. That was normal. Minho was used to being invisible. Meanwhile, Eunji sat in their tiny room, bored. She had finished her homework. She had read her book twice. She had drawn pictures until her fingers cramped. The room felt like a cage. She knew the rules. Stay inside, don't wander, don't touch anything. But she was 8, and 8-year-olds get curious. She opened the door just a crack. The hallway was empty. Maybe she could play hide and seek by herself? Just for a little while? Her father would not be back for 2 more hours. Eunji slipped into the corridor. She knew she should not. But the station was so big and interesting. She counted doorways as she walked, planning to remember the way back. 1, 2, 3, 4. At doorway number 7, she heard a soft humming sound. The door was partly open. Strange lights flickered inside. She should have turned back. She knew that. But the lights were pretty, like stars dancing. She pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The room was full of machines she had never seen before. Screens covered the walls, showing symbols she could not read. In the center stood a large crystal that glowed with blue light. Yoonji walked closer, her eyes wide. It looked like something from her storybooks. Like magic, she reached out to touch it. The moment her small fingers made contact, the crystal blazed bright. Screens all around the room flickered to life. A deep sound filled the air, like a horn blowing far away. Eunji jumped back, scared. What had she done? Would she be in trouble? But before she could run, one of the big screens changed. Instead of symbols, it now showed faces. Strange faces, not human faces. The beings on the screen looked like they were made of crystal and light. They had too many eyes. Their bodies seemed to shift and shimmer. Eunji stood frozen, not sure if she should scream or hide. One of the crystal beings made a sound. The machine nearby buzzed and clicked, then spoke in Korean. Ambassador Vrethmal? We have been waiting. The council is assembled. Eunji realized they were talking to her. They thought she was someone else. Someone important. She said in her small voice. I'm not an ambassador. I'm Yoonji. The crystal beings on the screen went still. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then they began making sounds to each other, quick and sharp. The translation machine struggled to keep up. A human child? One voice said. How did a child access this channel? Said another. Where is the ambassador? Demanded a third. Eunji felt tears starting in her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I just touched the pretty crystal. Please don't be angry. Another long silence. Then, one of the beings, bigger than the others, leaned forward. Its many eyes studied her. You are called Eunji? This is your name? She nodded, wiping her eyes. Why are you crying, small Yoonji? Because I broke something. And now you're all angry. And my appa works so hard. And if I'm in trouble, he'll be sad. The words rushed out of her. When Yoonji got scared, she talked too much. Her father always said so. Your appa? The being asked. My father. He cleans the floors here. We live in room C-447. It's small, but he tries to make it nice. The beings on the screen looked at each other. Eunji could not read their expressions, but they seemed confused, maybe surprised. "Your father is a cleaning worker?" one asked. "Yes. He works very hard. Sometimes his back hurts, but he never complains. He's the best appa in the whole galaxy." Yoonji felt defensive now. Less scared. These crystal people could judge her, but not her father. The large being made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You love your father very much. Of course. Don't you love your family?" Don't. Our people do not express such things openly. Tell us, Unji, who loves her father, what do you dream about? The question surprised her. Unji thought about it. "I want to see the stars up close, not through windows. I want to visit planets and meet different people. My appa says maybe one day, if we save enough money. But mostly I just want him to not be so tired all the time." The crystal beings talked among themselves again. Unji could not understand their words without the machine translating. She started to feel nervous again. How long had she been gone? Would her father notice? Suddenly, alarms began ringing in the corridor outside. Loud voices shouted. Heavy boots ran past the door. Unji's heart jumped into her throat. The door burst open. Men in security uniforms rushed in, weapons drawn. Behind them came her uncle Hyunwoo, still wearing his military uniform. His face was white with fear. "Unji," he shouted, running to her. He grabbed her shoulders, checking if she was hurt. "What did you do? What did you touch?" "I just wanted to see the lights," she whispered. On the screen, the crystal beings watched everything. The big one spoke. "We wish to speak with this child's father. We wish to understand." The security chief Daeho stepped forward, his face grim. "This is a restricted channel. The child made an unauthorized contact. This could be considered an act of espionage." "No," the crystal being said firmly. "This was no espionage. This was innocence. And it has shown us more than your diplomats have in 6 months of talks. We request a formal meeting. Bring us the janitor Minho and his daughter Unji. We wish to understand humans better. We wish to understand what makes a child speak of love so freely." Johnner. Daeho looked like he wanted to argue, but another figure appeared on the screen. This one wore more decorations, more crystals in its form. It radiated authority. "I am Council Speaker Threnix," it announced. "This is not a request. This is a requirement for negotiations to continue. Bring us the common human. Bring us the one who raised this remarkable child. We will speak with him, or we will speak with no one." The transmission ended. The crystal went dark. The room fell silent, except for the alarms, still ringing, in the distance. Yoonji looked up at her uncle. "Am I in very big trouble?" Hyunwoo pulled her into a tight hug. "Little one," he said softly. "I honestly don't know. But your father is going to have a very interesting day tomorrow." Minho sat in the security office, his hands shaking. They had pulled him from his cleaning shift 3 hours ago. Nobody would tell him what was happening. They just kept saying to wait, that important people needed to speak with him. All he knew was that Unji was involved, and his heart had not stopped racing since. The door opened. Captain Daeho entered, followed by people Minho had only seen from a distance. Diplomats in expensive clothes, military officers with serious faces, and his brother, Hyunwoo, who looked worried. "Minho," Daeho said, his voice formal. "Your daughter made unauthorized contact with the Kaith High Council last night." Minho's stomach dropped. The Kaith, the powerful alien civilization that humans had been nervously negotiating with for months. The ones who could crush human colonies, if they wanted to. "She's 8, Minho said, his voice cracking. She didn't understand. "Please. I'll take any punishment. But don't hurt her. She's just a child." A woman in a diplomat's uniform stepped forward. Her name badge said Sora. She looked young and nervous. "Mr. Minho." You're not being punished. The situation is complicated. Complicated how? Hyunwoo demanded, standing beside his brother. What do they want? Before anyone could answer, the large screen on the wall activated. The crystal being from last night appeared. The one Unji had spoken to. Behind it, Minho could see many others. This was not just one alien. This was their entire government. I am Ambassador Vreth Mal, the being said through the translation device. Are you the father of the human child Unji? Minho stood up quickly, nearly knocking over his chair. Yes, sir. I mean, honored ambassador. I'm sorry. She didn't mean any harm. I work long hours, and she was alone, and do you often apologize for things that are not your fault? Vrethmal asked. The question confused Minho. He stopped talking, not sure how to respond. Another crystal being appeared on screen, larger and more decorated. I am Council Speaker Threnix. We have a problem, Janitor Minho. For 6 months, we have spoken with your diplomats. They tell us humans want peace. They show us treaties and trade agreements. They use many impressive words, but we do not trust them. Minho felt the diplomats behind him shift uncomfortably. Sora made a small sound of protest. However, Threnix continued. Last night, a child spoke to us. She knew nothing of diplomacy or politics. She told us about her father who cleans floors and has a sore back. She told us she wants him to be less tired. She told us she loves him, with no shame or hesitation. This was not diplomacy. This was truth. I don't understand, Minho said quietly. What do you want from us? We want to know if your daughter represents real humanity or if she is unique. We want to spend time with you both. To understand the common human, not the trained diplomat. The room erupted in arguments. Daeho said it was too dangerous. The senior diplomats said it was inappropriate. Military advisors worried about security risks, but Vrethmal's voice cut through the noise. This is our condition for continuing peace talks. We will meet with the janitor and his daughter, or we will leave this station and return home. Silence fell. Everyone stared at Minho. The weight of 2 civilizations suddenly rested on his shoulders. Him. A man who scrubbed toilets for a living. Can I see my daughter first? Minho asked. Can I make sure she's all right? Quote, something in Vrethmal's posture changed. You do not ask about the politics. You do not ask what we want. You ask only about your child. She's all I have, Minho said simply. They brought Yoonji to him. She ran across the room and threw her arms around his waist. Appa, I'm sorry. I was bored, and I wandered, and I touched things I shouldn't. And now everyone's upset. Minho held her tight, checking her over for injuries. She was fine. Healthy. Safe. That was all that mattered. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. Your daughter is not in trouble, Threnix said from the screen. But we are serious about our request. Will you meet with us? The diplomats immediately started trying to coach Minho. They gave him papers to read, scripts to memorize, proper ways to address the Kaith. Minho's head spun with information. Bow this way, not that way. Say this phrase, not that phrase. Never mention politics. Always defer to their age and wisdom. Hyunwoo pulled him aside during a break. Brother, you don't have to do this. This is too much pressure. If I don't, what happens? War? More fear? I can't be responsible for that. You're a janitor, not a politician. I know. Believe me, I know. Minho rubbed his face tiredly. But they want to meet a regular human. That's me. I'm as regular as it gets. The meeting was arranged for the next day. They set it in the Grand Assembly Hall, the biggest room on the station. Minho had cleaned it many times but never imagined standing in it as the center of attention. When he arrived with Yoonji, holding her hand tightly, the room was packed. Human diplomats sat on one side, trying to look confident. On the huge screens, dozens of Kythe officials appeared, their crystal forms glowing in different colors. Cameras recorded everything. This would be broadcast to both civilizations. Minho felt sick. He wore his best clothes, but they were cheap and old. He had tried to remember all the diplomatic protocols, but his mind was blank with fear. Vrethmal spoke first. Janitor Minho, we have questions about humanity. Why do your people seek peace with the Kythe? The human diplomats leaned forward, ready to feed him the approved answer. Something about mutual prosperity and shared goals. But Yunji tugged on his sleeve. She whispered, loud enough for the sensitive microphones to catch. Tell them, it's because you don't want me to grow up afraid. Appa. Minho looked down at his daughter. Her eyes were wide and trusting. She believed he could do this. She believed in him. He forgot the scripts. He forgot the protocols. He just spoke from his heart. She's right, he said to the assembled aliens. I want my daughter to grow up without fear. I'm tired of being scared. Scared of war. Scared of losing my job. Scared I can't give her a good life. Every parent I know feels the same. We work hard jobs, we struggle to pay bills, and we just want our kids to have better than we did. Isn't that what everyone wants? Don't you want that for your children too? The room went silent. The diplomats looked shocked that he had gone completely off script. The military officers looked nervous, but on the screens, the Kythe began speaking among themselves. Their voices rose, in what might have been excitement or argument. Finally, Threnix spoke. In 10,000 years of Kythe history, no one has spoken to us this way. Your diplomats give us careful words. Your generals make veiled threats. But you, janitor, you speak of fear and hope and children. This is honest. This is real. Vrethmal leaned closer to his screen. Tell us more about your life, Minho. Tell us about being common. Tell us about being afraid and working hard and loving your daughter. We want to understand this. We want to understand how a civilization of such simple creatures could become so strong. Something in the words stung, but Minho understood. They did not mean it as insult. They genuinely wanted to know, so he told them. About losing his wife. About working 2 jobs just to afford their small room. About Unji's drawings on the walls because they could not afford decorations. About reading her the same bedtime story every night because it was the only book they owned. And as he spoke, something changed in how the Kythe looked at him. Their crystalline faces could not show emotion the way human faces did, but their posture shifted. They leaned forward. They listened with full attention. When he finished, Unji had fallen asleep against his side, exhausted from all the stress. Minho stroked her hair absently. The gesture, automatic, after 8 years of fatherhood. This, Vrethmal said softly, this is what we needed to see. Not speeches, not treaties, just truth, just love. Your diplomats tried to convince us humans were trustworthy. But this janitor and his sleeping child have done more in 1 hour than 6 months of negotiations. Threnix made a sound that the translator interpreted as approval. We will continue talks. But we want Minho and Unji to remain involved. As cultural liaisons, as reminders of what we are really negotiating for. Minho wanted to protest that he knew nothing about culture or diplomacy. But Unji stirred against him, and he remembered why any of this mattered. For her, for all the children, human and alien, who deserved a galaxy without war. The station command center was full of arguing voices. Minho stood in the corner, trying to make himself small. While important people shouted at each other about him, Commander Tajin slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You want to send a janitor and a child to spend time with aliens we barely understand? What if it's a trap? What if they take them hostage? The xenopsychologist Youngmi shook her head. She was younger than most people in the room, but she spoke with confidence. The Kythe don't think like that. Commander, their culture values directness and truth. They're not plotting. They genuinely want to understand us. By studying a janitor? Taejin's voice was full of disbelief. By studying a real human. Youngmi corrected. Not a trained diplomat. Not a military officer. Someone who represents the majority of our species. Sora, the junior diplomat, spoke up nervously. The request is unusual, but refusing might end the peace talks. The Keith Council was very clear. They want a cultural exchange with Minho and Eunji, or they leave. Let them leave, Taejin muttered. And start a war we can't win? Youngmi challenged. The Keith have technology centuries beyond ours. War means millions, dead, maybe billions. Minho cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at him. He felt his face grow hot. Can I say something? This is a military and diplomatic matter, Taejin said dismissively. It's about my daughter, Minho replied, finding courage from somewhere deep inside. So yes, I think I can say something. If spending time with the Keith helps prevent war, I'll do it. Eunji is scared, but she's also excited. She wants to meet Velnara. Velnara? Youngmi asked. The young Keith who'll be part of the exchange. Ambassador Vrethmal mentioned her. She's his student, learning to be a diplomat. She's never met children of any species before. The argument continued for another hour. But eventually Youngmi and the diplomatic corps won. The cultural exchange would happen. Minho would take a temporary leave from his janitorial duties. He and Eunji would spend time with Ambassador Vrethmal and his student Velnara over the next several weeks. The first meeting was arranged in a neutral observation room with lots of windows showing space outside. Minho held Eunji's hand as they entered. His heart pounded hard. Ambassador Vrethmal was bigger in person. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body made of something that looked like living crystal. Light moved through him, in patterns Minho could not predict. His many eyes focused on them with unnerving intensity. Beside him stood a smaller figure. Velnara was still taller than Minho, but her crystalline form was more delicate, less decorated. She stared at Eunji with obvious curiosity. Welcome, Vrethmal said, through the translation device attached to his form. Minho bowed slightly, trying to remember the diplomatic protocols. Eunji just waved. Hi! You're really pretty. You look like the crystal my appa gave me for my birthday. But much bigger and you move. Eunji's words tumbled out in her usual excited rush. Velnara made a sound. The translator struggled, then said, Pretty? No one has called me pretty before. What is your crystal? Pretty? Eunji dug in her pocket and pulled out a small quartz crystal, probably worth nothing. But she held it up proudly. See? It catches the light like you do. Something in Velnara's posture softened. She leaned down to examine the small crystal. It is similar. Your father gave this to you, for my birthday. We couldn't afford much, but he saved money for weeks to buy it at the market. He said it was beautiful, like me. Eunji beamed up at Minho. Minho felt embarrassed. It had been such a cheap gift. But Eunji loved it, so the cost did not matter. Vrethmal observed this exchange with intense focus. Your species forms strong parent-child bonds. This is obvious. But the open display of affection is unusual to us. Keith do not typically express such things. Why not? Eunji asked bluntly. Don't you love your families? The question clearly surprised both Keith. Velnara looked at Vrethmal, who took a long moment to answer. We feel connection. Yes, but we do not speak of it. Our civilization values logic and order. Emotions are considered disruptive. That sounds lonely, Eunji said softly. Silence fell. Minho worried his daughter had been rude, but Vrethmal made a sound that might have been agreement. Over the following days, they met regularly. At first, everything was formal and awkward, but Eunji had never learned to be formal. And slowly, her natural friendliness wore down the barriers. She taught Velnara about human games, Tag was confusing for a being made of crystal, but they found ways to adapt it. Drawing was fascinating to Velnara, who had never seen art created with such simple tools as crayons and paper. "Why do you draw your father so large?" Velnara asked one day, examining Unji's latest picture. "Because he's the most important person in my world," Unji explained, as if it were obvious. Velnara studied the crude drawing for a long time. "We do not create images of our daily lives. We record data, but not emotions. Not happiness." "But how do you remember the good days?" Unji asked, puzzled. The young Kaith had no answer. Meanwhile, Minho and Vrethmal spent time together in quieter ways. Vrethmal asked about Minho's work, his life, his hopes. At first, Minho felt self-conscious describing his humble existence to this powerful ambassador, but Vrethmal listened with genuine interest. "You work long hours for minimal pay," Vrethmal observed one day. "This seems inefficient. Why not demand better treatment?" Minho shrugged. "Because there are 100 people who would take my job if I complained. I'm replaceable. I'm just a janitor, but your daughter does not see you as replaceable." "No," Minho agreed softly. "To her, I'm everything. I'm her whole world. I have to be strong enough for that." Vrethmal was quiet for a moment. Kaith society is ancient and structured. Every member knows their place, their function. We are efficient. We are powerful, but we have lost something along the way. A vitality, a spontaneity. Watching your daughter laugh and play, watching you worry and hope. We do not do these things anymore. "Maybe you should," Minho said carefully. "Perhaps. But it is not easy to change 10,000 years of culture." The breakthrough came during the third week. Unji was telling Velnara a silly joke, something about a space chicken and a meteor. It made no logical sense, and Velnara said so. But then Unji started laughing at her own joke. That full-body laughter that only children can produce. And something strange happened. Velnara's crystal form vibrated. A sound emerged, high and musical, like wind chimes in a breeze. Unji stopped laughing. "Did you just laugh?" Velnara seemed shocked by her own response. I do not know. What was that? Why did I make that sound?" Vrethmal had gone very still. That was laughter. Kaith have not laughed in 10,000 years. We eliminated it as inefficient. "But it feels good," Velnara said, wonder in her translated voice. "When the small human laughed, I felt lightness, joy. I wanted to make the same sound." The moment was recorded by the observation cameras. Within hours, the clip was transmitted across the Kaith Dominion. A young Kaith laughing for the first time in their species' modern history. The cultural shockwave rippled through their entire civilization. Young Me came to observe the sessions after that, taking notes excitedly. "This is incredible. You're teaching them to feel again. Or maybe you're reminding them that it's okay to feel." Minho did not think he was teaching anything. He was just being himself, and letting Unji be herself. But apparently, that was enough. One evening, as they walked back to their quarters, Unji held his hand and said, "Appa, I think Velnara was sad before, but now she's learning to be happy. We're helping her, right?" Minho squeezed her hand gently. "Yes, sweetheart, I think we are. Good. Everyone should know how to be happy. Even crystal people. From space." It was such a simple, innocent statement. But it held a truth that diplomats and politicians had missed. Peace was not just about treaties and trade agreements. It was about beings understanding each other, about sharing joy and sorrow, about remembering that everyone, no matter what they looked like, wanted similar things. Vrethmal said as much in his report to the Kaith Council that night. "The humans are not weak because they feel deeply. They are strong because of it. Their emotions drive them to protect each other, to work impossible hours for their children, to hope even when logic says there is no hope. This janitor and his daughter have taught us more about strength than any military demonstration could. But not everyone was happy with these developments. On both sides, there were those who saw the growing friendship as a threat, and they were about to make their move. Ji-hoon had worked in maintenance with Minho for 2 years. They pushed cleaning carts together, ate lunch in the same break room, complained about the same supervisors. Minho thought they were friends. He had no idea that Ji-hoon hated him. More specifically, Ji-hoon hated what Minho represented: peace with aliens. Cooperation with species that Ji-hoon believed should be conquered or destroyed. He smiled at Minho every day while secretly planning to destroy everything the janitor had built. "Big day tomorrow," Ji-hoon said casually as they cleaned the observation deck together. "Your daughter meets the crystal aliens again?" Minho nodded, tired from a long shift. "Yes, she's excited. She and Velnara have become good friends." "Friends with aliens," Ji-hoon muttered. "What's the galaxy coming to?" Minho missed the bitterness in his voice. He was too exhausted to notice much of anything, except that his back hurt, and he wanted to see Unji before she fell asleep. That night, after Minho left, Ji-hoon accessed maintenance tunnels that most people had forgotten existed. He carried a small device, carefully shielded to avoid detection by station sensors. He had been planning this for weeks, waiting for the right moment. He planted the device in the wall of the cultural wing, where Unji and Velnara usually played. It was set on a timer. Tomorrow, during their meeting, it would explode. Not enough to destroy the whole station, but enough to kill whoever was nearby. Enough to destroy the peace talks. Enough to restart the fear and hatred that Ji-hoon believed was humanity's proper relationship with aliens. He was not the only one planning sabotage. Far away on a Kayeth warship, War Master Krelvok prepared his own response. He was old by Kayeth standards, from a time when his people conquered rather than negotiated. This new softness, this laughter, and friendship disgusted him. He sent a coded message to agents on the station. Kayeth agents who agreed with him that emotions made their species weak. Their orders were simple. During tomorrow's cultural exchange, they would create an incident. Make it look like human treachery. End these foolish peace talks, and return to the proper order of things. 2 plots, neither knowing about the other, both aimed at destroying what a janitor and his daughter had carefully built. Station Intelligence Officer Kyungmin noticed something odd in the maintenance logs. Access to restricted areas at unusual times. Her instincts said something was wrong, but she had no proof. Just a feeling. She decided to monitor the cultural wing extra carefully tomorrow. Morning came. Unji bounced excitedly as Minho helped her put on her good dress. "Velnara said she wants to learn about music today. I'm going to teach her to sing." Minho smiled, though he felt uneasy. He could not explain why. Just a father's instinct that something was wrong. He almost canceled. But Unji looked so happy. He could not disappoint her. They arrived at the cultural wing. Vrethmal and Velnara were already there, their crystal forms glowing softly in the morning light. Unji ran to hug Velnara, something that had taken weeks for the young Kayeth to accept but now welcomed. "Good morning, Minho," Vrethmal said. "I confess curiosity about this myself. She knows a lot of songs," Minho said, his unease growing for no reason he could name. Her mother used to sing to her. Unji had brought a small music player, one of their few possessions worth anything. She started playing a traditional Korean lullaby, the same one she had been singing when she accidentally contacted the Kayeth Council weeks ago. Velnara listened intently. The sounds have patterns, but they also have feeling. How do you make sounds carry emotion? You just feel it, Unji explained. You think about something that makes you happy or sad, and you let the feeling come out in your voice. She began to sing along with the music. Her voice was small but sweet. Velnara tried to join, her crystal form vibrating to create sounds. It was clumsy and off-key, but it was trying. It was attempting something that Kaith had not done in thousands of years. And then, Jihoon's device exploded. The wall erupted in fire and shrapnel. Alarms screamed. The music player shattered. Minho's instinct took over. He threw himself toward Unji, trying to shield her with his body, but the explosion triggered something else. The Kaith saboteurs, thinking this was their signal, released a gas into the ventilation system. A gas that was harmless to Kaith but toxic to humans. In the chaos, emergency doors slammed shut, sealing sections of the station. Unji and Velnara found themselves trapped in a side chamber, separated from their parents. The toxic gas began seeping in. Appa! Unji screamed, pounding on the sealed door. On the other side, Minho heard her. He ran to the door, trying to force it open. It would not budge. The explosion had damaged the magnetic locks. His daughter was inside, and he could not reach her. Unji, hold on, I'm coming. His voice was desperate, terrified in a way he had never been before. Hyunwoo arrived with security forces. The door is locked. We need engineering crews. There's no time, Minho shouted. He looked at the access panel, his mind racing. He was just a janitor, but he knew this station's systems better than almost anyone. He knew every circuit, every backup, every shortcut. The power relay, he muttered. If I can reroute power through the maintenance conduits. That's impossible, one of the engineers said. You'd need specialized tools and authorization codes. Minho ignored him. He ripped the panel open with his bare hands, not caring that the sharp edges cut his fingers. Inside was a maze of wires and circuits. He started disconnecting and reconnecting, using his work knife as a makeshift tool. What are you doing? Kyungmin demanded. She had arrived with her investigation team, having tracked the sabotage too late to prevent it. Getting my daughter, Minho said through gritted teeth. Blood from his cut fingers made the wires slippery, but he kept working. Inside the chamber, Unji was coughing. The gas was getting thicker. Velnara tried to shield her with her crystalline body, but it was not helping much. I'm scared, Unji whispered. Your father is coming, Velnara said with certainty. Humans do impossible things for those they love. This I have learned. Outside, Minho jerry-rigged a connection that no engineer would have thought possible. Sparks flew. The smell of burning plastic filled the air. But the door's magnetic lock clicked once. Vrethmal had been watching, but now he moved forward. The door is still too heavy for one human. We push together. The massive Kaith ambassador and the small human janitor both grabbed the door. They pulled with all their strength. Metal groaned. The door moved a centimeter. Then, another. Hyunwoo and the other security officers joined in. Human and alien. Working together, they forced the damaged door open enough for a small body to slip through. Unji stumbled out, coughing hard. Minho grabbed her, checking her over frantically. She was breathing. She was alive. That was all that mattered. Velnara emerged behind her. Her crystal form dimmed from the toxic exposure. She had used her own body to filter as much of the gas as possible, trying to protect Unji. It had damaged her. But she had not hesitated. Medics rushed forward to treat them. Station security arrested Jihoon, who had been found trying to escape. Kyungmin's investigation quickly uncovered the Kaith saboteurs as well. In the aftermath, Minho sat in the medical bay, watching doctors treat Unji. She would be fine. A few days of oxygen therapy, nothing more. Velnara would also recover, though it would take longer. Vrethmal stood beside him. You opened that door through skill and desperation. The engineers said it was impossible. Nothing is impossible when it's your child, Minho said quietly. His hands were bandaged now, but they still shook from adrenaline. This is what we needed to see, Vrethmal said. Not your weakness, your strength. Humans become unstoppable when they love. You performed the impossible because your daughter needed you. This is a power we do not have. This is a power we have forgotten. In her bed, Unji held Velnara's crystalline hand. The young Kaith had stayed by her side despite her own injuries. They had faced death together and survived. Their friendship had been tested by fire and proved stronger than plots or politics. Cameras had recorded everything. The explosion, the rescue, the sight of humans and Kaith working together desperately to save two children. The images spread across both civilizations within hours. Public opinion shifted like a tidal wave. Citizens on both sides saw not aliens, but fathers and friends trying to protect children. The saboteurs had meant to destroy peace. Instead, they had proven why peace mattered. That night, sleeping soundly after her ordeal, Unji dreamed of singing with Velnara. In her dream, there were no explosions, no fear, just two friends making music together under peaceful stars. And in both human and Kaith space, people watched the recordings and realized something important. If a janitor could become a hero through love, if a child could bridge civilizations through friendship, then peace was not just possible. It was necessary. It was worth fighting for. The investigation took 3 days. Kyungmin worked without rest, tracking down every conspirator, human and Kaith alike. The evidence was overwhelming. Jihoon had planted the bomb. Krelvok's agents had released the gas. Both sides had tried to sabotage peace, and both sides had failed. But the story that spread across human and Kaith space was not about the saboteurs. It was about what happened after. It was about a father who did the impossible to save his daughter. It was about a young Kaith who shielded a human child with her own body. It was about enemies becoming friends. Sunhee was a journalist who had covered the peace talks from the beginning. She had written dozens of articles about diplomatic procedures and treaty negotiations. Those articles were forgotten now. Her piece about Unji and Velnara, about Minho's desperate rescue, had been read by billions. She waited outside the medical bay for an interview. When Minho emerged, still bandaged, she approached carefully. "Mr. Minho, can I ask you a few questions?" Minho looked tired beyond words. "I'm just a janitor. I don't have anything important to say." "The entire galaxy disagrees," Sunhee said gently. "You've become a symbol. The father who proved that humans fight hardest when protecting those they love." Minho did not know how to respond to that. He just wanted to go back to his daughter. Next scene. Inside the medical bay, President Nari herself visited. She was the leader of the human colonial government, and she had never set foot in the medical wing of a space station before. But she came to see Unji. The little girl sat up in bed, looking small and fragile with oxygen tubes in her nose. Velnara sat nearby, her crystal form still dimmed from damage. They held hands across the gap between beds. "You're very brave," President Nari said to Unji. Unji shook her head. "I was scared. Velnara was brave. She protected me." "You both were brave," Velnara said. "You stayed calm. You sang to keep us from panicking. That was courage." President Nari watched this exchange with wonder. A human child and an alien who looked like living crystal, arguing about who was braver. It was absurd. It was beautiful. It was exactly what the galaxy needed. On the Kaith side, Supreme Architect Thunwell convened an emergency session of the High Council. The images of the rescue had caused upheaval in their society. Young Kaith were questioning old ways. They wanted to know why their people had given up laughter and friendship. They wanted to know if strength and emotion could coexist. "This human janitor has disrupted our entire civilization," one council member complained. "No," Thunwell corrected. "He has reminded us what we lost. He has shown us that eliminating emotion did not make us stronger. It made us incomplete." Vrethmal attended the council meeting via transmission from the station. "I propose we formally request that Minho be appointed as a special cultural liaison, not a diplomat. We have enough diplomats." We need a representative of common humanity. Someone genuine. Someone we can trust. The council debated long into their night cycle. But in the end, they agreed. They would present this request to the human government. When the request reached President Nari, her cabinet erupted in protests. A janitor as a cultural liaison? It's absurd. He has no training, no education for such a role. And yet, Youngmi pointed out, trained diplomats failed for 6 months. Minho succeeded in 6 weeks. Maybe we need to reconsider what qualifications actually matter. He's unqualified, insisted one of the senior advisors. He's a father who loves his daughter. Youngmi countered. In the eyes of the Kaith, that makes him the most qualified person alive. They brought the proposal to Minho. He sat in a conference room that he had cleaned 100 times but never imagined sitting in as anything other than a janitor. Important people explained what they wanted. You would be a cultural liaison, President Nari explained. A bridge between our peoples. You would help humans and Kaith understand each other. I don't know anything about that, Minho protested. I clean floors. You know about being human. Vrethmal said from his screen. You know about working hard. About sacrifice. About love. That is what we need to understand. Not your military strength or technological achievements. Your humanity. But I'm nobody special, Minho said, feeling overwhelmed. That's exactly the point, Youngmi said gently. You're not special by political standards. But you represent billions of ordinary people just trying to give their children a better life. That's more important than any amount of special training. Minho looked at all of them. Politicians, military officers, diplomats, aliens. All of them watching him, waiting for his answer. I need to talk to Yunji, he said finally. They brought him back to the medical bay. Unji was out of bed now, feeling much better. She sat with Velnara, teaching the young Kayath how to make paper airplanes. Appa. She ran to hug him. Velnara says when she's better, she wants to visit our quarters. Can she? Can she see my room and my drawings? Maybe, Minho said. He knelt down to her level. Sweetheart, I need to ask you something. The Kayath want us to be cultural liaisons. It means helping humans and aliens become friends. But it also means more time in meetings, more attention from people. Our lives would change. You'd have less privacy. We might have to move to bigger quarters. Meet with important people all the time. Would you be okay with that? Unji thought about it seriously. Would it help stop wars? Maybe. Yes, probably. Would it help more people become friends like me and Velnara? That's the idea. Unji nodded decisively. Then, we should do it. You taught me to be brave, Appa. Now you have to be brave too. Those words, coming from his 8-year-old daughter, somehow made the decision clear. Minho stood up and went back to the conference room. I'll do it, he told them. But I'm going to do it my way. No scripts. No pretending to be something I'm not. If they want a common human, that's what they get. I'll be honest. I'll tell them what life is really like for regular people. And if that's not good enough, then this won't work anyway. No, President Nari smiled. That's exactly what they want. Welcome to diplomacy, Mr. Minho. The strangest diplomatic appointment in human history. 3 weeks later, the formal peace accords were ready to be signed. The ceremony was held in the Grand Assembly Hall, with representatives from a dozen species attending. The entire galaxy watched the broadcast. Minho stood on stage in a new suit that still felt uncomfortable. Unji held his hand, wearing a pretty dress. They were flanked by President Nari, Vrethmal, and other dignitaries from both civilizations. The speeches were long and formal. Minho understood about half of what was said. His mind kept wandering to whether he had remembered to pay the rent for their old quarters, before remembering they had been moved to diplomatic housing now. Then President Nari gestured for him to speak. His heart jumped. They had not told him he would need to give a speech. But here he was, with billions watching, expected to say something meaningful. He stepped forward to the microphone. His mouth went dry. What could a janitor say to the galaxy? Then he felt Unji squeeze his hand, and the words came. I'm not good at speeches, he began. I'm a janitor. I was a janitor. I guess I'm still a janitor at heart. I know how to clean floors and fix broken things. I don't know much about politics or strategy. But I know about being human. I know about working hard and being tired and worried about bills. I know about loving my daughter more than anything in the universe. I know about wanting her to grow up safe and happy. He paused, looking at the assembled dignitaries, at the cameras, at Vrethmal's crystalline form. When I was a kid, my father told me that the galaxy was a dangerous place, that we had to be strong and suspicious of everyone different. But my daughter taught me something different. She taught me that friendship doesn't care about what you look like, that kindness doesn't need a reason, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust someone. Yunji leaned against him, and he put his arm around her shoulders. I'm not a warrior. I'm not a genius. I'm just a father who wants his kid to have better than I did. I think that's what everyone wants, human or Kaeth or any other species. We all want our children to inherit a galaxy that's better than the one we have now. A galaxy where they can be friends without fear, where they can laugh together and learn from each other. He looked directly at the camera now, speaking not to the politicians, but to the regular people watching across space. If a janitor and his daughter can help make that happen, then maybe peace isn't as complicated as we've been making it. Maybe it just takes being honest, being kind, being willing to see each other as people instead of threats. Silence followed his words. Then, slowly, applause began. Not just polite diplomatic applause, but genuine appreciation. It started with Youngmi and spread through the human delegates. Then, surprisingly, it spread to the Kaeth representatives, who struck their crystal bodies together to create a ringing sound of approval. Supreme Architect Thanwell spoke from the large screen. For 10,000 years, the Kaeth have measured strength by conquest and logic by elimination of emotion. We thought ourselves superior because we were efficient and powerful. But this janitor has taught us that we were not superior. We were incomplete. We had forgotten the most important strength of all. Thanwell gestured at the screen showing Unji and Velnara standing together. These children, one human and one Kaeth, nearly died protecting each other, not because of training or duty, but because they cared. This is not weakness. This is the most powerful force in the galaxy. The willingness to sacrifice for others. The capacity to love across all boundaries. We came to this station expecting to negotiate with your finest warriors and most cunning minds. Instead, we found something far more dangerous to our assumptions. We found humanity's heart. And now, we understand something important. Humans cannot be conquered, because when you fight for each other. Your strength is not in your weapons or your strategies. Your strength is in your connections, in your refusal to abandon those you love. This is a power we had forgotten existed, and it is a power we hope to relearn. 1C. The peace treaty was signed. Humans and Kaeth would work together. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, mutual defense pacts. All the formal arrangements that diplomats loved. But at the edge of the ceremony, away from the cameras and speeches, Unji and Velnara played together. Unji taught Velnara a hand-clapping game that human children had played for centuries. The young Kaeth was clumsy at it. But she laughed as she learned. That sound, that crystalline laughter, would become famous across both civilizations. Behind them, human and Kaeth personnel worked side by side, setting up equipment, managing logistics. They smiled at each other. They helped each other. They were building not just a peace treaty, but actual friendship. Minho watched all of this and felt overwhelmed. How had a simple janitor ended up here? How had his daughter, his curious and brave little girl, become the bridge between civilizations? Vrethmal approached him. You look troubled, my friend. Friend, Minho repeated. A few months ago, I didn't even know your species existed. Now you call me friend. Is it not accurate? It is. It's just strange. Good strange. Many things will be strange now, Vrethmal said, but I believe they will also be good. Your species has given mine a gift. You have reminded us what we lost. Now we will work together to build something neither of us could build alone. That night, in their new quarters that were bigger than anything Minho had ever imagined living in, he tucked Unji into bed. She hugged her small quartz crystal, the cheap birthday gift that started everything. Appa? Are we really important now? Minho thought about it. We're the same people we always were. We're just doing something different. Seeing this. We come to work for Mender. 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 But everyone knows our names. Everyone watches us. Does that make you happy? Yunji considered. Not really. I liked it better when it was just us. But I'm glad we helped. I'm glad Velnara is my friend. I'm glad there won't be a war. Velnara. Me too, sweetheart. Appa? When I grow up, what will I be? Whatever you want. The galaxy is yours now. I want to help people become friends, Unji said sleepily. Like we did. Then that's what you'll do. As she drifted off to sleep, Minho thought about his old life. Cleaning floors, invisible to everyone, struggling to make rent. That life was gone now. But in its place was something he never imagined. Purpose, friendship, hope. He was still just a janitor at heart. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the galaxy needed janitors. People who cleaned up messes, fixed broken things, and made the world better. One small action at a time. And if an invisible janitor could become a symbol of peace, then maybe anything was possible. Maybe the galaxy really could be better. Maybe Yunji and Velnara really could grow up in a universe where different species were friends instead of enemies. In the darkness of the quarters, Minho smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new responsibilities. But tonight, his daughter slept peacefully, dreaming of a future she had helped create. A future where a human child and an alien made of crystal could be best friends. And really, if that was possible, then anything was possible.